Welcome to Learn Section. We have the beginning of every one of these Hatecast. This is your host, Bryce Allen. I'm way too jazzed up for this one, so let me bring it down. So in this episode, I am joined by Guy Razy. That's right, an actual physio to discuss things. I know, it's taboo, but we have someone with an actual science background on podcast. So, in this series that we have going on, The Anatomy of Lifting, what we aim to do is we aim to discuss the function of the muscle, so what it actually does in the body, and then give you an idea of the functions so that you can kind of, play around with the most efficient way to train that muscle. We also give, in our opinion, the most bang for your buck exercises regarding those individual muscle groups. So if you're interested in like rear delts, chest, I think we go over abs in the other episode, or in the first episode. Go ahead and watch that before you watch this one so you can get down to the lower body. That's right. Glutes, because glutes get the salutes. We go over hammies, because things that rhyme with hamstrings. Yeah, we go over every single muscle group there is to grow, and then some. And we do this in order to help everybody formulate their own lifting routine, program, whatever you want, because there seems to be a lot of people selling workout routines that you can kind of make yourself. Now, if you want to buy a workout routine or you want to buy a program, that's up to you, but I like the DIY approach, do-it-yourself approach to programming. So, this is a very valuable resource. If you know anybody who's interested in making their own program, please share this episode with them. This is kind of personally in my little brainchild. I think that it can help a lot of people out there who are kind of lost on how muscles work, as well as the most efficient way to train them, because there's a lot of information out there. I would like to bring you guys a part 3 where we go over myths and we go over like rep schemes and how to make your own program and volume landmarks and recovery and all that stuff. So if you're interested in hearing about that from us, please let us know in the comment section below. Although I will link the first episode in the description box below for ease of access for all of you out there listening. So, now that long-winded explanation of the episode is done, because I really do think it's important that people see this, I will tell you what's going on over at www.chaosandpain.com, the business side of this. So, over at Chaos and Pain this weekend, we have kettlebell fear on BOGO. That's right, we have another BOGO. We're just doing those all the time because we like doing them, not for any other reason. Oh wait, yeah, because we want people to try our products. Kind of common sense. If you have not tried our most powerful pre-workout, which is most stimulant-heavy pre-workout, which is kettlebell ferox, right? Because there's still some people out there that have not seen the light, seen the glory that is kettlebell ferox. It's on BOGO. So if you're stupid at math, like I am, and you have to actually use a calculator for everything, let me break it down for you. Use one of our year-round 20% off codes, right? That brings the price down to about $1.27 per serving. There's 25 servings in a tub. $1.27 per serving altogether. So that's before shipping. If you use the BOGO on top of that, that makes one serving of our product less than 70 cents, which is friggin' spectacular for 450 milligrams of caffeine, plus a bunch of other amazing ingredients in there as well. So even if you're just using it for the caffeine, I think that it's a bargain, and I think breaking it down like that may sway people into giving it a try. So yeah, like here I am just being socially awkward and still talking to the camera. Just enjoy the show. God, you don't want to run into me at parties. I'm socially awkward, and I'm just like this. It's weird. I'm just weird. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the newest Hatecast. I was prepared. So, in this episode, I'm back with Guy Razy for the part 2 of the Anatomy of Lifting. That is the series in which Guy and I go over the anatomy, what it's responsible for, how to incorporate lifting into growing the muscles bigger and stronger and becoming all the things that we have strived to be in our life. So, before that, we do have a question from the previous episode that I wanted to touch on real quick. So somebody in the UK is looking to get into Guy's field. He wanted to ask Guy real quickly if there's anything that's not in the textbooks that he should be like on top of when it comes to learning, or is there any like knowledge that you can pass on to somebody who's up and coming in the field?
If you're going to work as a physio in the public sector, learn public speaking. It is not taught, and you will be talking to 40 people a day, every day, forever.
Right.
If you are working in the private field, learn accounting. It is not taught in physio school, and money matters in the private field.
Yeah, and, another thing, too, is personal finance is not really taught in school much anywhere, at least here in the United States. So if you do end up learning about accounting, it can help you in other venues of your life as well. So,
yep.
And I'm all about helping people, so I had to learn how to budget and all that stuff, where everybody else is living paycheck to paycheck around me. Yeah. So, very important, very good information. Is there any physio-specific stuff other than that you would suggest them looking into?
My honest advice would be to volunteer in several different facilities. There's pediatrics, there's orthopedics, there's geriatrics, there's cardiovascular rehab, there's neurological rehab. There are many different aspects of this field, and most people think what we do is like knee replacement rehab.
Or on the opposite end, voodoo. Because let's be honest, there are some of those physios out there, right? You seem to be one of those guys that's really interested in helping people, though. A lot of the new age physios will get into like the stem cell stuff too, and that might be an interesting roadmap that you can go down if that's legal in your country. Here, it's kind of, So, you might want to look into getting into that because that seems to be also a promising sector of physio. At least to me, that is. I'm very interested in the...
Stem cell injections are definitely going to change the game. In Canada, I'm not allowed to handle a syringe, period.
Right. But in the UK, it may be different. In India, I know it's different. In Panama, which is where a lot of the stars go to get their stem cells injected into their shoulder and stuff from whatever source they allow in Panama, that stuff... if you are interested in like next level stuff, I would seriously look into that. But I'm not a physio. I kind of stole the question. But also, this might be coming from a gym bro, but if you are going to be a physio, it's probably a good idea to pick up some form of physical exercise if you're not already, so that you can be in tune with the body and know if there's know how to do the rehabilitation exercises that you might suggest, as well as be familiar with the muscle groups and how things should feel, right? Because someone coming and learning how to walk again, which I know that's kind of your generic scenario when it comes to physio, sometimes they don't remember how their quads feel whenever they're activated, and that's a problem.
Yes.
So doing squats... It could be a way of you saying, oh, this is how it's supposed to feel. This is the burn that you're going to be feeling by just walking a few steps. Or this is how the muscle should feel. So, does that answer to your liking? Is that a pretty good?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Then we can move on into the rest of the body. In the first episode, we went over chest, we went over abs, although we did not go over obliques. So why don't we And by the way, if you're interested in what we went over on the other episode, it will be in the description box. I will also link a playlist, which will allow you to listen to all of these, so that when we're done with this 3 or 4 part series, we can have it all in one place. So, with that being said, obliques. What are your opinions on that? What do they do for the body?
So they help with stabilizing you in rotation. If we get into the really technical stuff, I went to my attic and I got my old anatomy
Oh,
book.
no.
So this will date me for those of you who are studying now, but it's Clinically Oriented Anatomy, 4th edition by Moore and Daly.
Okay.
So I think they're on 7th edition now.
Oh, yeah. So the obliques, they're responsible. What would you do to train them?
So based on the EMG studies, which we were talking about last time,
Right.
the most effective contraction you can get for the obliques is using the ab wheel. And anyone who's played with that thing for more than a minute knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Hates life. Another alternative to that is actually something that's never mentioned anymore because it kind of fell out of vogue. Although for taller individuals like me, where the ab wheel might be too narrow, barbell rollouts is actually something that you can do to simulate the movement. And I always like to give alternatives because there's a lot of information for guys who are of normal height, but get over 6 foot and half the gym equipment doesn't fit you. So,
for your obliques, a barbell rollout will be the exact same thing.
Right. So as per EMG results, that should be the most stimulatory. It should build the most structural strength, which, by the way, if you're an athlete, obliques are one of those things that it's kind of like some coaches say train them and some don't. What are your opinions on that? Would you definitely do that, or would you stay away from any direct oblique training?
In off-season, I would work the hell out of them. In season, I wouldn't waste my time. There's too many other things going on.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's actually along my recommendations. Because, abs, man, that's one of the things, especially if you're in any contact sports or any very, very physically moving your body through different planes, you can kind of tip over that recovery axis and to get into some really nasty stuff really quickly if you do a bunch of ab work. Especially in MMA, wrestling, stuff like soccer, football. I know.
Rugby, American football, all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think we'll move on to the next one. Sorry if I seemed a little jazzed. I'm still jazzed off of getting things done today. So we covered the lats, but there's something in between those. So the rhomboids. See, I've thrown them off again.
Was not part of the study.
Well, in your experience, then, because you can speak on that.
In my experience, it would be either a seated row, or a pull-up. It would be one of those two.
Right.
I can't tell you which would peak it, but it's got to be one of those two.
Depending on what kind of athlete you are, will depend on which one of those actually work for you, in my opinion. Because if you're somebody that maintains a lower level of body fat, but you have rhino muscles, right? You have these gigantic, weighty, these just unnecessarily huge muscles. Probably not going to be doing many pull-ups. I mean, that just is one of those give-take things. So the seated row is something you can do. Although everybody should be trying to do pull-ups because they are fantastic for overall strength development, size development, all the above, right? And I know personally a few physique guys and even open bodybuilders that still do pull-ups, So I'm talking like powerlifter, strongman style, like power belly. You're probably not going to be doing many.
I've been working with a powerlifter who's 275.
Okay.
And he will do doubles and pull-ups, and he'll do 10 or 15 sets because he can only do 2 at his size.
Right. Right.
But he'll go in there and he'll do the work.
And by the way, guys, that right there is that athlete making up for the volume that he's missing from being so heavy and only being able to do 2, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So, and we'll cover programming, I think, maybe in another episode, but we'll talk about that later. So rhomboids, I think we're in agreement on that one too. I think there is one thing I'd like to bring up, and it has to do with something that you probably deal with a lot. Because your rhomboids start here, and then they go all the way down to your lower back. And something people want to strengthen a lot of the times is their lower back. Is there anything specifically different that they would do in order to strengthen their lower back specifically? Or would that kill 2 birds with 1 stone?
So the rhomboids are only in the thoracic spine in the middle.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I had a question about lower back. Sorry.
For the lower back, deadlift, squat, reverse hyper, kettlebell swing, and heavy farmer's carry, heavy suitcase deadlifts.
Right.
That is the end of the rehab program.
Okay.
You know, when people have regained their range of motion, people have regained like the basic strength, blah, 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 that's what I tell them to do.
Right. So deadlifts, squats, and all of what you said should be adequate enough to give you a strong lower back, right?
If you can do deadlifts, squats, reverse hypers, kettlebell swings, and carries, unless you have an incredibly laborious job, you should be good.
Right. Now, would you throw all of those at it at the same time, or would you?
No.
Okay. Because I know there's going to be one person listening.
Yes, that is true. That is true. But in clinic, we do 1 or 2 at a time, and this is at the end of a multi-week rehab program where first we're regaining range of motion, and then we're regaining muscle control, and that's all the time we're monitoring for pain, and they're under the supervision of a physiotherapist. So there's stuff going on here to make sure that we're doing it in a systematic way. Every now and then, I'll get someone who's like, an 18-year-old rugby player on a national team. I'll be like, okay, we're going to jump to 4 of these exercises right off the bat, but you can handle that.
Right. Because they're an athlete, not just an average Joe.
Exactly.
Right. So I think that covers lower back. Of course, I actually had questions about that as well because that's something I've battled with, and it's not the fact that I don't do deadlifts. It's that you can do deadlifts and you can have a weak lower back. Although most of the time it comes from a weak core. It comes from It comes from the front, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm already doing those things, that tells me what I need to work on. You know what I'm saying? So, cool. I'm getting something out of this too. But I did want to kind of cover something because it's not really talked about anymore, which is forearm training forearm and grip training is either in vogue in certain circles or just completely dropped in others, right? What are your opinions on forearm training, and how's the most efficient way to train the forearm and grip strength specifically?
Well, I think everyone should probably spend 12 weeks a year, 9 to 12 weeks a year doing a cycle focusing on grip.
Okay.
I have seen probably over 100 individuals who simply can't function because their hands are so weak. We are talking about people over the age of 80.
Right.
But you're on that eventual down decline of your muscle mass. They can still hobble around and do stairs and get their shopping done if someone carries the box for them, but they can't hold a cup of coffee anymore.
Right.
And so I'm like, you know what? Let's avoid that. That really sucks if you can't hold a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're like a rock climber, your grip training is going to happen anyways. But everyone else, 9 to 12 weeks a year would be really awesome.
Okay. Now, what would you have them do? For example, one of my favorite ways to train the extensors, right,
Hmm.
is get a 5-gallon bucket of sand, and do
Right.
finger pull-aparts inside of that sand while pulling your hand upwards, right?
Hmm.
You know how Bruce Lee used to, do this, and then
Right.
he would do his finger flicks. That's what it was. It was the
Hmm.
finger flicks, right? But
Hmm.
I like going down into a bucket of sand, like, and submerging my whole hand into a bucket of sand, and
Hmm.
extending and pulling out. That seems to really tear up my a little good little finisher on my grip training. So,
So if you're going to be an athlete, that would probably be the route I would go.
okay.
For the everyday Joe, you go to the store, you grab some broccoli elastics, and you do the same thing.
Right. Now, for those of you without broccoli elastics, he's talking about the rubber band thing that goes around. You can do the same thing with rubber bands, although make sure there's adequate tension, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, there's not many ways differently that you can train extensors.
No.
They only have pretty much one function, and that one function hits them pretty well, and you kind of do it. And I guess it makes me feel manly that I can go to Home Depot and buy a bucket of sand and go, I'm going to use this for grip training the manly way, and then, because that's what I'm about. But
Yeah, but
broccoli,
it works.
yeah, but broccoli would have been a cheaper option. So, okay, what about flexor? Flexor.
So you've got the fat grips,
Okay.
you've got grippers, the Captain of Crush being the most famous of that category.
I absolutely love grippers.
Yeah.
I do.
You've got timed pinch holds,
Right, plate pinches and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got towel work.
Towel work. Yeah, towel pull-ups have kind of dropped out of vogue. I don't know why.
Hmm.
They're such a great exercise. They're rough though. That's
Yes.
probably why. You know.
I actually tell my interns who are coming through the school system, they need to be able to do 5 towel pull-ups if they want their hands to make it to the end of the day.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I had to connect the dots there for a minute. Physio does have a lot to do with massage therapy and stuff like that. So I get that. Yeah. That's actually pretty cool. Okay. So to work at your clinic, you need to do 5 towel
Towel
pull-ups.
pull. Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll remember that whenever I need another job. Um, but so let's kind of move up the arm. So you have your forearm flexors, right?
Right.
Now those are the ones that I think many people train incorrectly, right? And there's a lot of damage that you can do doing things like wrist curls,
Hmm.
but there's not much else you can do, right? Would that be fair to say?
There's not a lot of direct stuff you could do, but you will get a lot of them when you do supination work.
Right. Yeah.
So one of the things that is always fun if you just want to see if you can work it is you grab a sledgehammer or a long weighted stick of some kind, and you just turn it over like
Right.
that, the weight over at the end, and it will work the exact same muscle group.
Oh yeah, and you'll look badass too with a sledgehammer. But I actually like to do the same thing on a smaller level with those hex dumbbells, right?
Yeah, yes.
So you grab the end of a hex dumbbell and you literally flip it upwards and then flip it
Hmm.
back down, controlling the movement because you don't want to just let things drop and lose the tension. But that seems to be more of something like somebody can go out and go to their local gym and do. If you want to do it from home, you can do it with a sledgehammer or any heavy stick, as he mentioned. I don't know. Some of you out there are going to try and reenact your favorite scene from Conan, and that's completely fine too. I have no problems with that, but just go with the simple stuff.
Some of you who live in the Great White North might have shovels.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were just speaking about that. It being 84 degrees Fahrenheit here. And it's like cold enough to burn your face up there. So, tomato, tomato. I just gotta take cold showers in the meantime. Um, so, what about uh, the crap brachialis, brachioradialis? So the things, the hammer curl thing. I am brain farting majorly right now. So, reverse curls, right?
Yeah.
That would be a way that you could train that, or hammer curls.
Yeah, hammer curls would be the way I would go for that.
I like hammer curls better too because it allows for a better. Because I've actually broken both wrists. Okay, when I was
Oh,
younger. Yeah, just 90s kid. Just skateboard stuff. Like it wasn't like it was pretty. I actually jumped off of my parents' roof, and broke my collarbone. Jumped off my parents' roof onto a trampoline, which are death traps. Both of them are death traps. And yeah, I ended up breaking my collarbone, but I broke my wrist in the pool, and I broke this wrist on a bike. So I have,
any metal inside?
huh?
Any metal?
No, I was lucky enough that it was pretty cool that I was going through a growth spurt at that point.
Hmm.
So they heal pretty normally. Like
Okay.
they're a little bit wonky, but
Hmm.
you deal with what you're given. So,
Yeah.
but I will say that if I do reverse curls, I do feel a little bit of wrist pain. It's the same. It's the same reason why I can't really set up correctly on a front squat. Right.
Hmm.
That
You don't
along
have
with
okay.
yeah, along with the fact that my arms are a bit longer than the average bear, so
Hmm.
I gotta set up like this. I gotta set up with the old crisscrossed arms. So anyway, long story short, let's move on to the next muscle.
Yep.
I think that finishes out the top portion of the body, like upper body, right?
I believe so.
Okay. Trying to think if we forgot any things. I think we covered traps, which is. Did we cover traps?
I think so, but I mean, even if we didn't, the answer's bent rows.
Bent rows? Okay.
Bent rows.
So let's get a little bit more dicey because people don't like leg day. Okay? Probably, by the way, some of the most amount of issues you see is from the lower body, right? Um, huh?
Yeah, generally, the number one reason people come to see me for knee and ankle issues is their hamstring is weak.
All right, well, let's jump right into that.
Mm.
So what does the
So,
hamstring do?
so the hamstring brings the foot towards the ass.
Right. So pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Um, what would be the most efficient way? And I think I know the answer, but I also think that it's going to be a little bit hard for people to do. So,
Mm. There are two exercises that are beyond awesome for this.
right.
It's called the deadlift
Okay.
and the rack pull.
Oh, see, I didn't think you were going to go there. See, I thought you were going to bring out the old glute ham raise, right?
Ah, it did not make the list. I don't know if it wasn't tested or not.
Uh, you
But
know, it's probably something that's not going to be tested. The problem with glute ham raises and EMG activity is because everyone has different body weight, so it's kind of hard to.
that's true.
Everybody's body mechanics moves through the plane of motion differently. I mean, pull-ups are hard enough to test in a lab environment because you have people just the way they grip the bar and then the way their body's positioned. Because some people like to lean back, some people like to lean forward, some
Mhm.
people like to have one foot off the ground. People get wacky with the shit. And glute ham raises is one of those exercises that very few people do efficiently, right?
Yeah.
But it's
It does
killer.
work. I do that.
It's killer. It is also very hard to do if you're not trained.
Yeah.
Very hard to do. So deadlift and rack pulls seem to be my... Specifically, I like Romanian deadlifts for hamstrings specifically.
Right.
But I am falling more and more in love with rack pulls every single day.
Now, there are two exercises I don't see here that I am going to bring up, actually.
Go ahead.
So, one-legged bridge or one-legged hip thrust, depending on your inclination,
Right.
and Nordic curls.
Right. I had to think about what a Nordic curl was for a minute, but it's just
Natural
a leg curl.
glute raise.
Oh, natural glute ham raise. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is a Nordic curl for people who are...
So you hook your feet on something on the ground. So your knee to your foot is on the ground, and you are bending forward from the knee as low as you can go, and you'll get to about 30 to 40 degrees, and then your hamstrings will seize, and you should pull yourself back. And you repeat that over and over and over, and it sucks, but it will get full. In my opinion, I don't know if it's been tested, but in my opinion, you'll get pretty close to full recruitment from that.
You know, that's interesting. So they shouldn't go all the way down when it comes to a Nordic leg curl.
If you're not like a trained sprinter or something, no.
You should go about 45 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know, I love Reddit to death, but something they have hammered into people's head is the fact that you have to go full range of motion for every movement. There is no exceptions. You should never go less than full range of motion. And for some people, that may either not be possible or actually harmful for them, depending on who you are.
Yeah.
Specifically when it comes to things... Go ahead.
If you want to rip your hamstrings off and give me more work, I'm good with that.
Oh, come on, man. Don't give out your secrets. See, this is going to be a, Guy Razy, your practice. This is going to be like your practice. We could send people there. We could just say, do full range of motion, use too much weight,
Yeah.
While you're at it, by the way, cheek curls every day. You should
At
also do those.
110%.
110%.
She curls at 110%.
Yeah. But no, man, it's like I agree with you there because I've done quite the many glute ham raises, and of course set up either on the glute ham raise machine, which if your gym does not have one of those, you're probably the norm because they're expensive. But I personally do love the movement, and I've tried going all the way down, and I just had to drop them just because I was actually unaware that you should only do 45 degrees because, see, and I'm prey to this too. This is something people don't know about me is I got NASM certified, but NASM certification is literally a $600 bill that nobody cares about. Like you pay $600, you can say you're a trainer here, right? So a lot of this stuff I was self-taught, and talking to people like you really does help me out because, I would have just tried it, done it again, decided to drop them. Now, I'm going to give them a go for 8 to 12 weeks because I've been looking for a new hamstring exercise.
There you go.
Leg curls can get boring, man.
Yeah.
So, especially if you're doing like reps of 20 or 30, it's killer like for bodybuilding style training, and I also respond well to high reps. But it takes too much time. It takes a lot of time. And if you want to do those one leg at a time, good luck. Man, I just don't have that much time to invest.
Mm-hmm.
But, and what is the hamstrings like from structural integrity? If you have weak hamstrings, what can one expect?
Oh, you're going to mess up your knee. You're going to mess up your low back. It is entirely possible you'll mess up your ankle, although that's more rare.
Right.
But your knee and your low back, yeah, that you will wind up on my table.
And we wouldn't want that.
Exactly.
So let's flip the leg over here. Let's go on the quads. Right. Now, I know through EMG, I know that the leg extension is pretty high. Yes. My problem with the leg extension is it has to do with the way people usually end up doing them. So I'd like to hear your opinions on what you would do for the quad and what the quad's responsible for. Let's go into that first.
Oh, so the one part of the quad is responsible for bringing the knee up towards the hip.
Right.
And the other part is straightening the knee or bringing the foot away from the S.
Right. Right. So, and by the way, quadricep, that means 4 muscles, and that is the, crap, I forgot the names of them. Why don't you go ahead and list them to show your knowledge? Huh? Challenge.
Medialis, femoris, I don't know if that's it. Which one's in here? I can't find it.
The vastialis?
Vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, vastus femoris.
Somebody will say it in the comments.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's Googleable. Calm down. But, so, it is responsible for pulling the leg up to the hip, right?
Yeah.
And then pulling the leg forward. So, what would be, this is going to make so many people cringe, what would be the most efficient way to train your quads?
So if you want the highest muscle recruitment, half squats. I'm not happy with that answer, but that is the actual EMG measured answer.
Right. See, I love EMG data, but it comes with its own host of problems.
Yes.
So I would suggest everyone take the EMG data and put it in a knowledge bank up here, right? Because you're going to use that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, you're going to be doing full squats.
Yes, please do full squats. They're much better for you on so many other aspects.
So full squats have the benefit of being better for your knees, right?
Yep.
Because that whole, squats are bad for your knees thing, sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes has to do with the range of motion that the individuals are using and the amount of shear force on certain parts of the knee.
Mm-hmm.
You have a reflex, a ganglial reflex, right, when you squat, that literally loads the hamstrings and you pop back up, right?
Yep.
That is exactly what you want to do. You will get quad activity. You will get a lot of quad growth from squats, full squats.
Mm-hmm.
You will get a lot of hamstring growth, and you will get a lot of glute growth.
Yes.
For my personal recommendation, there is nowhere near any risk to reward benefit ratio wise anywhere near anything as good as the full squat.
Yeah.
That does not mean ass to grass. People, I know there's been this obsession with ass to grass squats, and I'm talking about sitting on your calves, right? Some people can't do that, so we have to make a recommendation for the general public. So parallel, a little bit below, I think would be perfect, right?
Yeah.
As low as you can go comfortably, because trust me, when you get into the uncomfortably low portion of a squat, something will happen and you will end up on Guy's table, right?
Yes.
So, and I've seen people's lower back, because a lot of people will use belts as Band-Aids for their form, right?
Yeah.
And they will use them as Band-Aids so they can get away with bouncing down, driving deep into the hole for a long time. Mm-hmm. Trust me, you can go for years without an injury. Yep. But everybody's not injured until they get injured. It's not an issue until it's an issue. Well, you putting a Band-Aid on your shitty squat form and your not even that. It's like people don't know forget how to brace, right? They put on that belt, and the bracing mentality just goes out the window because they have this girdle around them.
Right.
So with that in mind, make sure that you're doing full squats to the best of your abilities. Make sure that you learn to brace. And why don't you speak a little bit on that? Let's talk about what bracing does when it comes to the squat, because this is not said enough. This is not highlighted enough, in my opinion.
Bracing is what's going to help you hold your spine in place while you are lifting stupid amounts of weight. For those of you who your goal is to squat 3 to 4 times body weight and to be a very serious power lifter, just as an example, if you can't brace properly, your spine will break. Like there's no two ways about it. You will pop a disc. It might not be rep 2, it might not be rep 12, but you will pop a disc. Period.
Right. And also something you've got to understand is for the people who are at lower body weight, it becomes even more of a problem, right?
Yes.
So it's not linear. So somebody who's 275 pounds, for example, right, can squat twice their body weight, have minimal damage compared to somebody who's 130 pounds squatting twice their body weight, right? Which is why, which is why, like, female powerlifters are so freaking amazing, by the way.
Yes.
They're an anomaly, and I love them, and I love watching the sport because they're just, they have such low body weights, and they just crush it, right?
Yes.
It's addicting. I'm sorry, but female powerlifting is cool.
One of the things you should do the next time you're at like a state level meet or a national level meet, ask how many guys after squat day or after deadlift day can't feel a leg. I am always blown away the number of people who have numbness down a leg and think it's normal.
Okay.
It is not normal.
Let's talk about that, because what do you think that stems from? Because I know people like that.
Oh, that stems from they are bulging a disc and it's crushing a nerve. That's where it stems from. 99% of the time. Maybe 1% of the time it's piriformis syndrome, but 99% of the time they are bulging a disc and crushing a nerve.
Right. You can also tell, by the way, which bodybuilders are fantastic squatters. Like, I'm talking about the guys who crush weights, right? I'm talking about the guys who squat 2, 3 times their body weight, right? Because what has become vogue is they have this little bump on the back of their neck, right? This nasty looking bump, right? And all it is where the bar was. That's all that has caused that. It's not synthol, it's not anything else. It is literally that bar being sit there, them squatting twice, sometimes 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times body weight, crushing it because Dorian Yates crushed it. It's like, they're trying to chase that Dorian Yates style of look that we have going on right now in the bodybuilding world. We still have that mass monster world, And you'll see that little disc of skin. It almost has it's like a boil. It looks like a boil on people's back of their neck. Is that a disc? Is that like a crushed disc, or what is that?
No, that's a callus on your skin.
Okay. Yeah. But do you think bar placement has anything to do with safety of the movement?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of low bar squatting, right? Only because it's more comfortable for me. What would be your recommendation?
Whatever your coach tells you to do for your spine.
Right.
Because I'm just under 5'6" in American terms.
Right.
The way you're going to squat and the way I'm going to squat are going to be different.
Right. Yeah. I can guess one of us is wider than the other.
Oh yeah.
So I might be sumo squatting all the time. Don't worry about it. But yeah, people put so much importance on the weight that they squat and not how they squat, right? And I think that needs to come back into vogue.
Spending 3 months, 4 months with a powerlifting coach or a bodybuilding coach or someone who is actually knowledgeable on how to squat and how to keep the hips open and the knees open and the back aligned and the ankles in alignment.
Right.
And do that. I mean, and just so people understand, there's a reason Olympic weightlifters do 1,000 reps of a broomstick.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. By the way, best forms in the game.
Yes.
You know? I mean, there's a reason why Ray Williams, which, by the way, I think he was trained Olympic, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. But there's a reason why he goes down and he just pop. Like, I mean, have you seen Ray Williams?
Yeah.
He's literally a monster. He sits there with 1,000 pounds on his back and he pops down. He just doesn't care. He could probably go to a buffet after that. Like, he could hit it. He'd just tear it up at the buffet and it's like, yeah, what's up, man? I'm going to go do this tomorrow, too. So, how are you doing? How's the wife and kids? Like, man, come on. You just squatted a car. Stop.
So,
but I think
for squat training, I mean, number one thing I get patients to do when I'm rehabbing their squat, I take an 18-inch box.
Yeah.
I put it about 8 inches from the wall.
Right.
And I make them face the wall, and I make them sit on the box.
Right.
If they don't tilt forward and they don't hit the wall, they're doing it right.
Okay. Yeah.
Because everyone's going to tip forward, and either their head or their chest is going to hit that wall.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think the cause of the good morning squat is besides too much weight? Because I know that seems to be kind of a thing right now. And by the good morning, go ahead.
Hips are tight, glutes are weak, low back is weak, hamstrings are weak.
Oh, okay. So just all weak. That's why I really like. There's bits and pieces that I pick up from the fitness industry, right? Of course, this is like with everything in life. You pick and choose the parts you like, and then you just toss away the other parts you don't like. One of the things that I really like about Westside and Louis Simmons out there is he's all about training the weaknesses before they become weaknesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's also parts that I've learned off of people who are more interested in the health aspect, which is, train the muscles the hardest that seem to be a problem later in life. So, like, if you're an old man or you're an old lady, if you have weak legs, you'll fall and break a hip, right?
Yep.
These are the things that people take for granted, and whenever you're in that position, you'll wish that you had paid more attention. I mean, you can't be living on borrowed time when you're that old, I mean, like, honestly here, and I'm not trying to be dark or anything, but, like, 80 years, anything past 40 is pretty much where the human body goes, because that's basically how old we lived up until, 100 years ago.
Oh, okay. This is actually a conversation I have probably daily with my patients.
Yeah?
So, at a very fundamental level, we are designed to live to be about 50.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Everything after 50 is essentially, we have clean water and we don't drink our own poop.
Right.
And we have vaccines and we have soap.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There's actually this guy who made famous, I believe it was Dr. Lister, made famous antiseptic, right? Mm-hmm. Which was like these nasty little things that are called germs that we can't see are out to get us, and everybody should be worried about them. Also, by the way, responsible for, in a roundabout way, for Listerine, which was a medicine used to cure an STD. But I digress. So, like, it took that guy being a genius and kind of figuring out that we need to clean the wound before we operate and everything like that, because modern medicine used to be very, very, like, dark ages, right?
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I think
look at, like, surgical manuals from World War I, which is 100 years ago.
That's one person ago. One person.
Actually, 40 legs in a day and never wash my hands.
Well, you can just do another one in a couple minutes. Don't worry about it. Now, if you go into an operating room, they actually have, like, they crawl into their suits because they're afraid of all the germs that are going to get on if they actually handle the gloves to put them on. Like, they have gloves that are on top of the suits, and they just kind of go in there. Or they have an assistant who's already scrubbed up and gloved up. I don't really know how that works. Who puts it on first? Anyway, I'm getting way off topic here, but it's just interesting, and we may actually go into the history of medicine. I think that would make an interesting podcast. But yeah, so quads, do your full squats. As per the other exercises, hack squats are fine. They're not. You lose some of the benefits you get from full squats, right? Mm-hmm. Leg presses, much in the same way. I think leg presses are a fantastic accessory, but you lose some of the benefits from a full squat. Although variation's another thing we can kind of touch on in a bit, because I think that variation plays an important part in training cycles. So, but I think we'll move on to let's cover leg extensions real quick, because I know a lot of people still do those. So what are your opinions on leg extensions?
If you're not a bodybuilder, don't do them.
Oh, well, okay. I need to start doing leg extensions. So, but yeah, I have the same opinion. There's a lot of physios that actually suggest them for patients with knee injuries, and I'm kind of confused as to why that is.
I don't know why. It will make their knees worse.
Yeah. See, that's what I was telling.
People can't do it properly.
That's what I was telling my friend who's an MMA fighter who goes to my gym. He was like a mid-level, like he didn't make it onto Bellator or whatever, but he was getting into the local circuits and he was making a name for himself. And what ended up happening is he took a wrong leg kick and wrecked his knee. I'm talking, he's still wearing a knee brace, very ugly scar, everything like that. Doctor had him do leg extensions. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go against what your doctor says, but don't do that, right?
Right.
Although
now,
I am
doing
not.
that for 6 weeks as part of a rehab protocol, that's one thing. But if you're going to be doing that for the next 16 years, we have to have a very different conversation about what's going to happen to your knee.
Yeah. Or what kind of pillow you would like when you end up on Guy's table. I'm just trying to be considerate of people, Mm-hmm. But I think that if you're going to do leg extensions, if you cannot live without them, if you can't think of a world without leg extensions because they make you happy and all the things, go light. I mean, like pump. It's used for pump work generally. Like, bodybuilders even don't do sets of 3 on leg extensions. They generally go for sets of like 12 all the way up to 30, right?
Yeah.
I would suggest
20 to 30 is where I would put it.
Yeah. And it's anything that has you extending your knee, I would really appreciate it if you really concentrate on the contraction and, slowing the movement down, concentrating on the movement, not running on adrenaline on that particular muscle group, right?
Yep.
Because you can do that with chest, right? You can sit there, you can go pop, 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 pop. You'll be fine. Eventually, you may run into some problems, but generally you'll be fine. A little bit of elbow tendonitis, but I mean you have a spot warm on the table, so yeah. But with knees, I mean you can go and then pop, and then you're like oh shit, you got a problem. You got a surgical problem, right? Because knees often require surgery.
Typically, yes.
So. I would suggest going lighter, and I think I've talked about that ad nauseum. So I think we're going to move on. Glutes for the sleuts. Let's go ahead and talk about glutes.
bridges, and hip thrusts.
Pretty much in line with my recommendation.
Yeah.
Because how important, first of all, do you think glute strength is for athletes?
If you are doing anything where you are not standing still, you need them. And if you're lifting weight and you're standing still, you still need them. So I guess if you're doing ping pong, you don't need glute.
Is that still a professional sport?
It's in the Olympics as far as I know.
Okay. Well, my shot at the Olympics is over. But no, I mean I agree with you because you have sprinters that do glute bridges. You have Olympic weightlifters. You have MMA guys, which I didn't think would do them, but apparently there's a lot of glute involvement in MMA. You have baseball, right? So baseball's big on it.
Yep.
Same thing with basketball, big on the glutes. So it may not.
If you're jumping, if you're lifting, you need them.
Right. Now, it may not be the most masculine way to train glutes because you're humping the air. It'd be okay. You'll get through it. Just do them.
You know what? As a goal, do them with 500 pounds.
Hey, then you could look good for Instagram and play to both sides of the fence. So,
exactly.
No, it's cool. Like, glutes are only going to help you get a stronger deadlift. Glutes are only going to help you get a stronger squat. Glutes are only going to help you. I mean, they even help a little bit in barbell rows, like the stabilizing portion, So, all the good things that you want to increase usually end up having some sort of glute involvement. So.
Right. I'm actually going to put one proviso on this. If you try to contract your glutes and you can't, because you've got gluteal amnesia, which is a somewhat controversial term, which I'm not going to explore at this time, but you cannot actively contract your glutes, which happens if you spent, say, from the age of 5 to the age of 25 sitting in a chair and never playing sports. Then you want to start doing just single leg bodyweight bridge and single leg clams, single leg sideline leg lifts, and just getting the neurological signal to those muscles.
Now, how long would somebody do that?
6 to 12 weeks.
6 to 12
Until
weeks.
you can actively contract it whenever you want.
Okay. Because you just described me. You gotta understand, I was obese when I was bigger, or when I was younger. So, like, when I was 18, I was close to, like, 380 pounds. I was at 430 at my heaviest. And then 18, I started, and I lost weight. And then I weighed again at 380-something. Long story short, like, physical activity and me have not been best friends for all of my life.
But I'm sure by now you can contract your glutes whenever you want.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm still finding it oddly difficult. So I'm going to try this. It's not going to set me back, but I will go ahead and give it a try. I'm always open to trying new things when it comes to exercise and stuff. So it gives me a fun little playtime too. I actually like doing this stuff. I mean, coming from that kid that was, complaining about going outside and like cleaning like the garage or taking out the trash or whatever, I've actually completely done a 180 and have fallen in love with, like, sure, I'll take the dogs on a walk and then a run. Like, who would have thought?
Right.
But that was a pun. See, glutes. Let's move on to the next muscle group. So that would be the calves.
Yes.
Right? So you can go ahead and... Hold on just a second. Go ahead and explain what the glutes do, because we didn't do that.
Ah.
Yeah.
So they help bring... The glutes are 3 major muscles and like 8 minor muscles. They help bring the leg back. They help do external rotation, turning the leg out. And they help swing the leg out straight.
Right. Right.
To some degree, they will also help turn it in.
Right. Would you also add adductor and abductor work at any point during your low body training? Because I didn't want to really cover them, but hip adductor and abductor seems to be weak in some individuals, which can disguise itself as an IT band syndrome, right?
Right. So abduction I do for can you contract it?
Right, right.
Adductor, when I see adductor strains, I will train them, but it's pretty rare just in general training that I recommend it.
Now, explain. Abductor is
going away from the body. ABD is away from the body. ADD is towards the body.
Right. Okay. So, because I've noticed that IT band syndrome seems to be a real plague in the fitness industry right now.
Yep.
Like, you'll hear YouTubers and fitness personalities and stuff that don't go to physios. They're like, nah. And then they end up saying that they have IT band issue, but you and I both know that issues can disguise themselves as other issues that have the exact same explanation, right?
Yes.
So you could
great if all the pains that you felt were exactly on that structure. I would not need, 5.5 years of school if where it hurt was where the problem was.
Well, hey, man, I'm still trying to convince my doctor that I can Google everything.
Just because you've got a pain on the side of your leg, it can literally come from your shoulders.
Right. Yeah, no, there's this actually interesting story, and this is an offshoot, and we'll get on to the calves. But there was a friend of mine. So, I have nasal issues, right? And I was talking to a buddy up at my gym. This is after a sinus infection, so it's probably a little infection that's still there. It's fine. I'm not going to die, don't worry. Or worry if you're one of those people that were hoping death on me because this is the internet. But I was talking to my friend up at the gym, and he says that his aunt went through the same thing, right? And he's like, you know what it turned out to be? The root of a tooth grew up into her sinuses and was causing her chronic sinusitis.
That's awesome.
In what bizarre world would you say that would be a diagnosis without some sort of real diagnostic, trickery?
Oh, you've got to do x-rays. I mean, there's no other way to find that.
Right. So it's kind of cool. Like you're saying, there's it could come from the shoulders. It could come from, because nerve pain is something that's so bizarre. You deal with a lot of it, but my dad has neuropathy brought on by lymphedema and stuff like that, and it is incredible the amount of pain people with nerve pain go through, and it's on just the weirdest parts of your body that you didn't know you had, right? So, like, he has a little bit of neuropathy in the bottom of his feet, right? That's caused by probably some nerve damage up his tibia, right? But he also has sciatic nerve pain, which is, sciatic nerve can manifest itself in a bunch of different creative ways, right? So it's not always black and white, which is why you'd want to go to a physio like Guy, or you'd want to go to a professional instead of listening to this weird guy on the internet or any other person typing away on a fitness forum. Because I'm not going to lie, they give good information. Like, there's guys on there that can read through your blood work and tell you what's wrong like that. But there's a lot of people who can't, and there's a lot of people who say, I can, and then they can't, and then they give you bad advice, and now you're taking St. John's wort or something like that, or whatever freaking, like, homeopathic remedy, and then you end up making things worse, or at best not improving anything, right?
Yep.
So calves. I think we're going on to calves. So
the calf muscle, the calf is a group of 3 muscles.
Right.
All of them help you push down with your toes. and one of them will help you bend a knee.
Right. Right. So, what would be the most efficient way, and can you train? We'll save that. Put a pin in that right now. Okay. So, what would be the most efficient way to train calves?
It's going to be a real shocker. Heavy calf raises.
Oh. Man.
Yeah.
Man. So, the thing that the exercise is named after. Okay.
Yes.
I get that. Okay. Yeah. No, I the same way. So, I kind of wanted to... I did want to ask this, but we'll save it after this. So calf raises, I'm in agreement towards that. Mm-hmm. The calves are responsible for what you said they are. Let's move on to, because this is kind of, people are concentrating on this again in like very small circles, but tibia or the yeah. So, because those machines have gone away, by the way. Right. Those machines are hard to find, but apparently they're still around. So what is that?
So tibialis anterior is the muscle on the front of the lower leg bone.
Right.
And it helps pull your foot towards you.
Right. Right. So basically, think calf raises at the bottom portion of the calf raise where your leg is rested. So pulling your toes towards your body. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How would one train that, and is it really a thing you'd want to do?
So, typically, the only way I've seen to train it is you pull against resistance bands. You move the resistance band over your foot, and you pull. Is it a thing you want to do? If you are going to be running for more than 2 minutes, yes.
Oh, okay. See, I'm just over here in bodybuilder land where I'm like... hey, there's some weights over there. I'm going to lift them for this set number of reps, and then I'm going to change my training on cycle, on training cycles, and I'm going to, just like fluff and pump. And you're sitting over here like, well, actually, things that are important. So yeah, okay. So that would be for like the endurance sprinters, maybe.
I mean, if you're going to do the 100 to 200. Even the 400, arguably, you don't need it. Once you get to the 1,000 and beyond, I would argue you need it.
What about cycling?
Oh, yeah, you definitely need it. If you're doing competitive cycling, 1,000% you need it.
Okay. Now, that seems to be the only way to train them, or pretty much the most bang for your buck, right? So, because I've seen people do it.
The only way to train them is with the bands. I've never seen anything else.
I've seen one variation. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that has to do with, because resistance bands, of course, they work like rubber bands. They're more resistant when they're stretched, right? They create resistance. I've actually seen someone do them on cable machines, right?
Okay, yeah, the same principle.
Same principle, different loading mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Although I think it's a bit excessive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but... in theory, I guess.
If you want to run an ultra marathon in the wilderness at the Olympic level or whatever, go. You can have nuts doing that.
Next goal. These are oddly specific scenarios. So that kind of leads us, because we've killed an hour, by the way.
Yep.
That leads us into something special that I wanted to do for everyone out there. That still sees a bunch of myths and everything spread, and I would like to kind of clarify some of those things. So do you have time for that? And then we'll kind of wrap things up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you train different parts of the quad by changing foot placement, and does it matter that much?
Ooh, this is a very controversial question.
See, I knew that would make you cringe. I know.
Okay. For those of you doing audio only, I literally just held my face for a moment. The way you place your leg will change the neuromechanical loading across the quadricep, all things being equal.
Right.
the amount of change we're talking about, in my opinion, unless you are very, very low functioning, I am rehabbing from a knee replacement, or very, very high functioning, I'm training for a world's gold medal, unless you're in those two, it doesn't matter.
Okay. You and I are of the same opinion. It drives me nuts. And, the truth of it is if you want to do that and it's fun for you, right? Do it.
Go nuts.
Yeah. It's not going to do any damage.
No.
The issue is if you think that you're going to have a bigger teardrop from necessarily doing that for every training session on the leg press. That's where I think that you're off in la land, and you think, because the makeup of muscles and how they grow and at what rate they grow, because is highly genetic, but it's also highly time consuming, right?
Yes.
So you could be doing this, right? And you could see results, but would you get any different results by doing it the other way? Like, in the most comfortable position for you? My guess is you would have to turn back time to tell the difference, and there's not currently a way we can do that.
Right. The other thing, the people who ask this type of question, in all seriousness, are typically people who do not have their sleep dialed in, do not have their nutrition dialed in, and do not have the regular, normal supplements like, say, fish oil dialed in. So I'm like, let's have a conversation about your training priorities before we, this is question number 273 on the list of questions.
Yeah.
That's
I appreciate your head not exploding when I asked you that. There's a couple more, and then we'll wrap this up, because these are kind of like that. So training different parts of the calf muscle, right? So you have an upper calf and a lower calf, right, in the world of bodybuilding. Okay? I'm saying that in preface so that you can kind of wrap your head around it, right? So in the world of bodybuilding, people have been doing seated calf raises and then doing standing calf raises and having both variations in their training routine for basically every training cycle.
Yeah.
And instead of using seated calf raises as a variation, they think that you can grow both parts of the calves and independently of each other. So what are your opinions on that? Is it something that they should program as a variation, or do you think that there's some validity to that argument?
They are different. You are training different muscles.
Right.
Standing, you are training the gastrocnemius. Seated, you are training the soleus and the tibialis posterior. You are training different muscles. There is going to be some overlap, just the neurological, factors. But overall, you are training different muscles because they do slightly different tasks. One raises you up when you are bent. The other one raises you up when you are straight.
Right.
It makes perfect sense in the sport of bodybuilding to train both, given you want a certain look for the calf.
Right.
I tell most people who walk around to train seated. I tell most people who sit all day to train standing.
Right. Yeah. I think that if you use, for example, you can train both, but the way I would program it is I would say, all right, this 8 to 12 week training cycle, seated. This 8 to 12 week training cycle, standing, right? Because I think that with the amount of overlap that there is, right, and we know this through EMG studies, we also know this through muscle biopsy studies, which are actually up and coming, something that's being done more, and we're learning more now than ever about training and specific prescriptions we can use for ourselves, and not prescriptions as in medicine. I'm talking about prescription as in general recommendation that we can use. Right? Because I got to be careful about that. He is a doctor. But when it comes down to it, I think that people are chasing the 90% and missing the 10%, if that makes sense. So just use that as a variation. I would alternate them. Of course, standing, seated. But
the other thing I'm just going to throw out there, and this will be somewhat controversial, but this has been my experience in training and rehabbing people for decades.
Sure.
You cannot overtrain the soleus muscle, the seated calf raise, if you are otherwise healthy. I'm not talking about if you're diabetic. I'm not talking about if you have cancer. If you are otherwise healthy, you cannot overtrain it.
Right.
I've had patients do 500 seated calf raises a day. Not 500 in one sitting, but 500 in one day.
Right.
And they have no issues the next day.
Right. Standing is another issue entirely. I know those things rip with professional bodybuilders. They just come off the bone. But that is good to know. And I did have one question related to what you just said. So have you treated many patients that have been going through either metabolic disorders or diseases?
Yes.
How adversely does that affect their training and the rate of muscle that they can actually gain and the rate of how important their nutrition has to be?
The nutrition game becomes a whole different psychological hand-holding aspect when we're already at the point of metabolic derangement.
Right.
But for training and or rehab of someone who also has a metabolic problem, if it is not if they are mildly type 2 diabetic and it is well controlled with medication, no significant difference.
Okay.
If they are obese, type 2 diabetic, insulin resistant, not taking their meds, blah 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 blah, 2.5 to 3 times the healing time.
Wow. That's actually not something I expected. So I expected there to be a little bit, but 2 or 3 times?
Yeah.
That's actually pretty crazy. And I guess with, of course, cancer patients or something like that, or patients with AIDS, it would be something along the lines of related to the amount of hormones that they have or what's available to them when it comes to going through chemo, having the IGF-1 levels just crashed, and, because that's responsible for some repair in the body. Not to say it's entirely responsible, but it has to do with anabolism. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. And I know that dealing with patients with metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes specifically, because I know there's a high level of non-compliance when it comes to working with people with diabetes, and that's a shame, but it is what it is. I'm actually pretty shocked that severe cases of diabetes can actually be very, very detrimental, right?
I can give you just an example where I had a person in their 50s who wrecked their shoulder playing golf.
Okay.
Had type 2 diabetes, what should have been 3 or 4 visits over 3 weeks became 5 months of weekly visits.
Wow.
And there was nothing structurally wrong with the shoulder. It's just healing was that slow.
Right. Do you have a mechanism of action behind that?
That's an endocrinologist's job, man.
It's something this guy's going to research and then Google so that I can make my doctor happy. But, I appreciate you taking time out of your day. And, guys, if you have any more questions or any myths that you want busted on this this channel, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. If you are listening to us, go ahead and toss us a follow on any platform that you are listening to. If you are watching us on YouTube, go ahead and leave a subscribe. If you are listening to audio only, I just pointed at a subscribe pillow, which is nice and red and shiny, and you should click it, not because it does anything, but because it'll pause the video and will give me joy. So, yeah, we will see you. Leave us a like and all that stuff. We will see you in the next one.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of your women. That is good.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. I just been living online, my city don't show me no love and that's fine. Fuck local radio stations, I got more plays than all of these rappers combined. I'm going again, I've been going in, I'm fed up with so many things. I gotta just let it all out, I'm talking about the shit they've been talking about. Telling me I should do this, telling me I should do that. Telling me things about rap. Talking the truth and then stabbing my back, they will knock me off track. No, too many things have been building, been hard to deal with, I just been drinking. Remember my moves in the past, I'm wondering what was I thinking. Lately I'm living in fear, wondering what if the end is so near. All of this shit going on, the shootings are strong. One shot to the head and I'm gone. I'm losing control but I can't let it go, cause I'm trying to get more. And I've been in the moment, I've been in the zone, and I'm moving alone. I don't pick up the phone when my family call, I've been doing it wrong and I don't know what's happening. Trying to get what I just been imagining, getting close and I just been examining all of the fake shit the game has been packaging.
Power pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
I come from a town where most of the people are so close-minded. They go into school and they work in a job but they don't even like it. I won't be put in a box, nobody telling me what I should rock. Nobody telling me what I should drop, cause I do what I want and just know I don't stop. Recording till 4 in the morning, they snoring. I'm pouring my soul into every story. I'm writing, producing, I mix it, I master. I'm building my craft and I'm not looking back. I've been going doing things I wanna do when I want to. Everybody wanna get a win but they not do. Everybody wanna copy you but they not you. Everybody wanna be cool but they not new. Whoa, look how I go, gonna be a dentist, I still got the flow. Never gonna lose cause I'm still doing both. Never gonna lose cause I've been on the road. Come to your state and I'm killing the show. Know that I'm young and I still gotta grow. Know that I'm working the most, know I'm never gonna choke. And I'm looking back down on the people below.
I've been keeping real, I've been doing what I feel. I've been out here trying to kill every beat I know.